Welcome back to another episode of the Anchor Lines podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, and this week we get to speak with Aliah Banchik. Aliah joins us via FaceTime as she's currently road tripping across Australia. She is a master's student at James Cook University, the founder of the Finstitute, a student-led shark conservation organization at James Cook University. She is the owner of Naked for Nature, an art-based conservation awareness project. She is an avid underwater photographer and just overall awesome human being. This was such a fun conversation to have. If you're interested in marine biology, photography, sharks, or just living a very adventurous lifestyle, check her out. She is an awesome person. Follow her socials. All of her links will be below in the episode description. But besides that, guys, sit back. We got a good hour-long conversation. A lot of fun. I enjoyed this one. I hope y'all do too. So let's get into the interview. Some people are like, "What are you doing tonight?" I was like, "I'm doing a recording with this." I literally used the phrase "a girl in Australia," and Emily just turns to me. She goes, "Aliah?" I was like, "How does everybody know this person already?" "Oh, she worked at CRF."
No
I need to do
way.
my research real fast.
That's so funny. I'm glad to know that people still know who I am in the Keys. It's
Your
been a while.
legacy lives on with at least a few crazy individuals down here.
Aw, yes. Keep it going.
All right. So, Aliah, you are in Australia right now. Where are we talking to you from? Because you just said you got out of a van?
I did just get out of a van, and there's literally a bush turkey hanging out with me as we do this. I was like, why are there footsteps behind me? And then all of a sudden I see this giant bird. Hello, I have no food. So yeah, we're in Australia. And I'm currently in Byron Bay. Oh crap. I'm in Byron Bay. I'm doing a road trip in between semesters. No, do not eat that. I'm sorry. One second. I just dropped my chapstick and he tried to eat it.
Starting hard, fighting with
Yes.
wildlife. Got it.
I know. Gotta be on your toes in Australia, man. Holy crap. But yes, I'm in Byron Bay doing a road trip. So from Townsville, where I go to school, all the way down to Thredbo, the Snowy Mountains, which is past Sydney, and then back to school. I'm here with my partner. We're about 2.5 weeks into a month on the road, and yeah, it's been pretty cool to see the east coast of Australia. I gotta say, it's a lot more wildlife than I'd expected.
I mean, I'd be excited to see any part of Australia. That's other side of the globe. So thanks for being on the opposite schedule and still doing this.
Well, anytime you're ready to come, you just let me know. I'll give you the grand tour.
I'm done, 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 done. Well, all right. So in Australia, yeah, the reason we're connected is everyone in the Keys seems to know you. And then I knew you were in like New Orleans before that and Miami. So like, why don't you just give us a little primer on who you are and how you got to Australia, and then we'll kind of get into what you're doing because the reason your name came up is one, Katie wanted to connect me, but I reached out to Katie because she was on the 10 Young Women Making an Impact in Conservation, the Patty article that just came out. And she's like, yeah, I also my other friends on there. She's on Australia. So I'd love to hear kind of the story of how you got there and started getting involved in more and more things.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So like from the beginning,
Yeah, let's. How about this? The first
I
time
was
you
born.
realized you wanted to start working, like, this whole podcast is about people that have a passion for working on the ocean, working with the animals in the ocean, conservation, fishing, boating, sailing, all that stuff. To give everybody a little primer, you're doing a lot of work with conservation, with sharks, and I know you're in some marine programs right now in school. So maybe where that first spark of caring for the ocean and the animals in it and saying, I don't need a 9 to 5, wait for my gold watch, work there for 45 years. Let's go do some weird shit and see what happens.
Yes. Okay, that I can do.
All right.
So I would say it all traces back to 11th grade when I had the option to take either I always forget, astronomy or a marine biology elective. Like I was almost done with school, with high school, and they were like, okay, choose like one of these electives to take. And I actually chose astronomy, but it was full. So I had to go for marine biology. I wasn't too upset because I was like, the ocean's cool. But yeah, it was in that class where my love for not only the ocean, but also just for sharks in general was actually sparked. I remember learning about mantis shrimps and bobtail squids that like glow in the dark, and they can match their bioluminescence to the exact frequency of the moonlight so that they're completely invisible underwater and emit no shadow to like predators below, which I thought was like freaking nuts. And then we had a shark lecture where we were pretty much learning just about like the evolution of sharks and why their body plan is the way that it is. And I remember vividly learning about counter shading, specifically on like great whites, because there's a so distinct where you have like the white belly of a shark and then like this darker top. I always just thought that was like, evolution just wanted to flex a little bit. But actually, there was some real like science behind that decision, and it was like a mind-blowing discovery to me that counter shading actually helped like sharks kind of blend in. If you look down at them from the top, the darkness kind of blends into the darkness of the sea. And if you're looking up at them from below, then their like white bellies kind of, look like more into the light. And I was just like, what? This is crazy. It was like the coolest thing ever to learn about that. And so, yeah, from pretty much that moment, I was like, whoa, sharks are so, so cool. And the interesting thing is that I was horrified of the ocean, like up until that point and a little bit even after that point. Like I did not like going in the ocean. I didn't like going in the lake at camp. Like they had to fully force me to do it, and I'm pretty sure I got exemptions every time to get into the lake because I would just have like such a hissy fit. I'm like, I don't like seaweed, I don't like sea snakes, I don't like lake snakes. Like I just don't need to be touched by things that I can't see.
I'm with you on snakes.
Yeah, right? You're like,
I'll go
get
swim
that,
with the shark. I ain't touching a damn snake.
don't put me in the ocean with a snake. However, I have grown a very great fondness for sea snakes. Just being in Australia, I think they're the cutest things in the entire world, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, pretty much like learning about sharks, I found that the more and the more that I learned about them, the less and less I was fearing them, and the more that I was more confident in the ocean. And that was like seriously like a tangible, immeasurable scale of like the more that I learned, the less I feared. And that's why like one of my favorite things to say is that, especially around sharks, is that I think that knowledge is the antidote to fear. So the more that you know and you understand things, the less the unpredictability of it will actually scare you, because there is a level of predictability to most of nature. Of course, it's nature, so it's wild and untamed, but you can understand at least why things happen. And I think that gave me a big sense of ease when it came to just, actually exploring the water a little bit more. So yeah, that's definitely where it started. Um, and then yeah, it kind of snowballed from there. Yeah, I just remember like I started off with that, and I was telling my parents like, "Oh my God, sharks are so cool, whatever." And they're like, "That's great, honey. They are cool. Please don't swim with them." I'm like, "Don't worry, I'm still like kind of scared. I won't." Fast forward a few years, but no. And then yeah, I ended up like choosing a university, a college to go to in the States based off of pretty much what lifestyle I wanted. I didn't really know what I wanted to study still. Did not think that marine biology was like my forte in any case. Um, and so yeah, I chose Tulane University in New Orleans, which was super duper fun. I chose that school because I just felt connected a bit more to that one to the other two that I had applied to. Um, I just, yeah, I really wanted to live somewhere warm. I wanted to live somewhere happy and where there was really great energy. And that's kind of how I decided what school I wanted to go to. So I wasn't looking at programs or anything, because I didn't really know what I wanted. So I was like, I just want to go to a place where I know I'll have a good time. And Tulane was exactly that. And so, yeah, at Tulane, I, you know, bopped around a bit at the beginning. I was like, maybe I'll study computer science. I took one computer science class. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then I was like, maybe I'll be an economics girl. I took one microeconomics class. I was like, yep, this also is not it. So I definitely explored a lot. And then I ultimately landed on the major of psychology. So I actually did not study marine biology. They did not have it at Tulane University, at least for a major. Um, and so, yeah, I just was like, you know what? What's the most widely applicable and generally interesting thing that I could possibly study if I don't know what I want to do with my life? Psychology. And would I do it again? 100%.
You can
I think
use that
psychology is
anywhere.
the best. You can use it anywhere. And I feel like just from a personal level, like it lets you understand how humans interact on a deeper level. It helps you understand all the relationships in your life and why they are the way they are. I took one abnormal psychology class, and you just learn about like all the different like disorders that pretty much exist, and you're just sitting there, everybody in the class, it's not just me, every single person in the class sitting there with their jaw dropped, because for every single lecture it's like light bulbs are lighting up. It's like, oh my god, I know somebody in my life who has this, like my aunt's definitely going through that, or like it's just like you're like, oh my god, there's a word for this. Let me just diagnose everyone I know.
It's like the little kid at Halloween that puts on the cop costume and starts giving his uncles tickets for leaving dishes out or something, except for you're doing it as an adult with diagnosis you
Literally
know a little bit about.
100%. You're like, oh shit, that's me. Also, that's me, you know, you're like learning about some of these things, you're like, oh my god, what's wrong with me? That's what's wrong with me? Crap. But like it's good, you know, it's good to know that there's like terms for some of these things and that they're widely experienced phenomena. I think it's cool. So I ended up studying psychology at Tulane University with, they offered a minor in marine biology, so I did a minor in marine biology and Spanish. um to which my parents were super duper confused. They were like, the ongoing joke, at least between me and my dad, is that he was like, what are you going to use that combination to do? Like, what is he? What did he say? He's like, what, are you going to be a therapist for Spanish dolphins? I'm like, maybe, you know,
If
maybe.
there's a market for it, I'm in.
Right. I'm like, I will be the sole person. If that's a niche market that emerges, I'll be the first person to get a job. So just you wait.
All right.
Yeah.
So Tulane, you're gotten the
Tulane.
most random group of degrees possible. You are armed
Yep.
with knowledge, as they say, ready to take on the world. What happens the day after you graduate?
Oh, well, I can't tell you what happened the day after I graduated because it's blurry. But I can tell
Okay,
you.
I meant more in the abstract, not the waking up a little bit hungover or a lot of it.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, the funny thing is, so I did, while I was in Tulane, I did my sophomore semester abroad
Mhm.
in Australia. So I went to the University of Sydney for a semester, and that's when I first, you know, fell in love with Australia. And I pretty much, after leaving, that's when I pretty much guaranteed to myself and promised myself that I would be coming back in some form. Didn't know if it would be school again or if it would just be like me going to like find myself. um but yeah, I did end up coming back here, and it was through school, which is actually worked out pretty well. And the funny thing is that I applied to the Master's of Marine Biology program at James Cook University while I was still in my undergrad by accident.
What?
Let me explain.
Please.
So I'm used to the US system where it's like, oh, you have straight A's and you are the president of every society. That's great. But have you cured cancer yet? No. Okay. You can't get into this school. Or like, oh, tell me, write the world's most eloquent, you know, entry essay. Also have a perfect score on all of your like standardized tests. And then we'll have a discussion. You're not guaranteed. I'm like, I'm used to that, you know, where it's like perfection isn't even good enough to get into most US schools.
Be
And so,
perfect, and then we got a vibe. We ain't gonna call it that,
right.
but this is a bunch of 70-year-olds saying, bro, we vibe, we vibe.
That's really the goal. Like that is the goal with the college apps, but it's different for Australia, and I did not know that because I had not applied for an Australian school yet. So, um, yeah, I was like looking at the application. I was like, yeah, I would love to do this. So I went ahead and just like started the process for when I ultimately would have to finish it. So I like
Mhm.
created an account, filled out my regular details, name, address. I entered my like, I just uploaded my transcript because I had just gotten it back from graduating. And I had uploaded my resume, and then I hit next, and it was like, thank you for your submission. I was like,
You're like, wait, where's
What?
the $50 application fee, the 3 essays, my
Right.
character references, and a
I'm like,
headshot?
wait, there was no transaction paid. I didn't answer an essay. Like, I didn't submit any test scores. Like, I was really confused, and I was like, uh-oh, I hope I didn't just like actually apply. And I actually did. And 2 days later, they responded like, congratulations, we'd love to offer you a spot in our like next semester's class. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm still an undergrad. Like, I can't go yet. Yeah, so I like accidentally applied like a semester early. I fully like was still in school, and I had to defer, which was not hard. And I really did get in. Like, I thought it was a scam. Like, I did not believe it. I called my mom. I was like, this just feels wrong. But then I called JCU the next day just to make sure. It was like, hey, I got like, you know, a notification that I got in. Like, is that, do you remember that? Is that true? Did you guys do that? And they're like, yes, congrats. I'm like, oh shit. So that's when it all seemed real. And yeah, so I had to defer. And then when it was time, COVID came along, and then I had to defer again. And then when it was time again, COVID was still there. So I had to defer again. I deferred 3 times. And ultimately got here a year ago into the master's program, which all worked out really well because I met my boyfriend while I was stuck in Miami. And he agreed to apply to James Cook University as well and moved across the world with me. So now we're both here together at the same time.
Some good
And
dedication.
yeah, I mean, it worked out. It worked out. So thank you, JCU, and, border restrictions for, pushing me back enough time.
Well, awesome. So you're done with your program. You get stuck in Miami for a little bit. Did you go to Miami
True.
by choice, or was it like, I gotta pick somewhere to go? Let's go be near the ocean, do some work. 'Cause I
Yeah.
know a few of the stuff you've done down there. What was the whole Miami, Key Largo, Florida Keys kind of period of life?
The Florida Keys period of life. Let's enter.
Everybody has one of those, and I'm in the middle of it for the second time. I don't know if that means another 6 months or
There
another
we
6 years. We'll figure it out.
go. Hey, that's good though. That's good. I definitely have a second time coming up. I'm feeling it. I'm gearing up for it.
You just gotta roll through it. It'll all be good. This time I'm in
Exactly.
control. The last time I was not.
Exactly. As long as you've made the conscious decision to be where you are, you're winning.
Oh
You
yeah.
know?
The first time you show up for like a 2-week vacation, and then you're
Exactly.
stuck, and you're like,
Exactly.
I made this decision, but I don't feel like I did.
Right. Some higher power clearly orchestrated this.
Amen.
Here for the ride. But yeah,
Talk
so
about
that period of time. So pretty much COVID hit actually like the month after I got back from Australia from my semester abroad in Sydney. So I got, my school was like, okay, you can't really stay here, so go home. And I live in New York City, which is,
not a great
that's where
place to be at that time.
yeah, not a great place to be at that time. Exactly. That's a great way to say that. And so luckily for me, my dad has had a place in Miami Beach since I was 4. That was like, kind of like our vacation home. We would always go back and forth there. And so I had the genius idea, like as they were kicking us out, I gave my dad a call and I was like, hey, so like I can't stay on campus anymore. Theoretically, could I just go to Miami? Because I don't really want to be in the cold or in New York. And he's like, I don't see why not. And that's pretty much how it happened. I thought I was just going to go there for a little bit, and I ended up staying there for like until literally last year. So I just accidentally moved there during COVID, which was pretty cool.
That's not a bad way to do it.
Not a bad way. And I didn't really have any like ocean motivation, like when I was like putting myself there. I mean, I did think to myself, like, do I want to be trapped in like a concrete jungle, or like, do I want to be near a beach if I'm going to be trapped? And I was like, at least if I go to Miami, I'll be able to like, surf and skimboard and like run on the beach and relax during the day. So I thought. Then I get to Miami, I'm there for 2 days living it up, and then they close the freaking beaches.
So you
Like
gotta find a way to get on the water,
the beaches. The beaches were closed for freaking a year.
It
I was
doesn't
just so
make sense.
I was so confused by that one. And really, I was like, oh, so I'm still stuck inside. Okay, cool. But at least it was warm. At least it was sunny. And yeah, that was a great time. But that summer, I guess, I was already in Florida. I had applied to like 2 different oceany internships. And I got into one of them, which was the Coral Restoration Foundation,
CRF,
which I'm
great group of people down here.
great group. Um, yeah, so like that was the beginning of the Keys era, if you will. I moved down there. It was really weird, actually. Let me just paint the scene really quick. So like we're still in the height of COVID, but they're running this internship. But also the Keys are literally closed. Like there's the 18-mile stretch where you can get into the Keys, and like there were literally like patrol people there where they were like blocking it off, and like you had to prove that you lived inside of the Keys, like through your license or something like that, or else they would literally make you turn around and go. Like nobody except locals were allowed to get into the Keys during this time.
It's like
But we
locals, or
still,
you had to have like a work permit or something. It was a
yeah, it
strange
was
thing.
so weird. It was locals or, like essential personnel. That's what they phrased it as. And so like the first time I went to go drive down, nobody told me that it was closed. So I drove like, an hour and a half, 2 hours from Miami, get to the 18-mile stretch. And then they're like, oh, like you don't live here, you can't come in. I'm like, I literally have to work here. Like I'm about to move here in a week. Like, please, like this is the address that I'm renting from. Like, can I get in? And they're like, no, you need like a signed paper from your employer or something like that. So I literally got turned around and I had to redo that. But it was cool because in Miami, in Florida at least, if you work with like oh yeah, in Miami or in Florida or in the US, I forget, but corals are considered endangered species.
So you're
So
essential.
people working with endangered species are technically essential workers. And so because of that little caveat, we as the coral restoration intern team were allowed to enter the Keys during this like crazy lockdown time. And then had like a really, strict kind of month long. Was it a month? It feels like, oh no, it was more than a month, I think. It's a blur now, honestly. The Keys era just but I think it was like a month or 2 month internship, but it was like all really strict and under lockdown. But the good news is that we were able to run it and have this awesome experience. And that's where I met Katie, who introduced us, and some of my other best friends like Sydney, who's another coral queen out there in Key West right now doing some coral antibiotic treatments. But yeah, it was a great time. And that was the first time that I got like, I definitely wouldn't say paid to do marine biology because that would be a stretch. I got a stipend, but that was the first time I was receiving any
Mildly
money.
compensated.
Yeah, I was like, okay, not paid, but
Yeah.
receiving any type of benefit monetarily from.
Recognized for your work.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Yes, exactly.
No, that's awesome. So
Yeah.
during during that time, you became an instructor for Patty as well, right? Or
Well,
dive
during
master, or
that,
both? Or sorry, I guess
actually,
you'd be both if it's instructor.
well, actually, I had got like while I was doing that internship, I got my rescue. I wasn't even.
Oh,
I was a wee baby in the diving world. Um, so it took me until I got back from that, and I was like, yeah, I do want to go further, like in my diving career. Like I do want to get paid to like dive for a bit. And so I think about a year after that, I started working at a number of dive shops. I worked at this one dive shop, Grove Scuba in Miami. They were awesome, awesome team. But they use a lake, and I just like hate lakes to certify people in. So I just bopped over to a store that was actually way closer to me anyway, which was South Beach Dive and Surf at the time, but they closed. Ugh, I can't talk about it, but it's okay. South Beach Dive and Surf, which was like the most amazing shop ever, literally on like 7th and Washington, Miami, walking distance from my house. And then from there, they had a sister shop in Key Biscayne, which was like their actual dive shop, and they had their own boats and took people out. And so I kind of got transferred The owner, who's like now one of my really good family friends, Sasha, who I was actually just hanging out with in Sydney, like literally a week ago, him and his family. He pulled me over to their Key Biscayne location. I started working the desk there as just like a dive shop desk reception person. And then through them, I ended up doing my dive master, which was great. And then they took it one step further and they're like, you might as well just do your, assistant instructor certification while you're here. And I was like, I guess. So that's kind of how that part happened. And now I'm an assistant instructor with no desire to really become an instructor.
Well, that's a great place to be. You can essentially help.
That's what I'm saying, But yeah, as a dive master, I got that certification. I put in my hours. I got, comfortable leading and doing stuff. And then I moved. So I had to defer again, right, from James Cook University.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, I'm mentally prepared to move. Like I'm already mentally prepared to move to a different place. It just feels wrong to just stay stagnant and like stay in Miami when I've like already done the mental movement of like going somewhere else, even though I can't. So I ended up just sending it to Hawaii. I
Damn.
had,
All right.
yeah,
I didn't
it
even
was,
know Hawaii was on the docket here. There's so much
it
to look
is,
through for you.
that was a brief little moment, but I was there for about 3-ish months. And I wanted to get like more professional diving experience. I wanted to work on my underwater photography, which I had picked up right after I graduated. So actually, so when you asked me what did I do the day after I graduated, I was very fortunate, and for my graduation gift from undergrad, my parents gifted me like my first underwater camera and my underwater housing, and like that's
Nice.
where the like underwater exploration Aliah kind of started to emerge. I was like no longer intimidated or scared of the ocean in any way. As long as I had a camera in hand, like I just felt so safe and confident and just excited, and I still do. Like that's exactly how it
I very
uh
much understand the principle you're saying here. When I have a camera in my
oh
hand, I feel like I have a purpose,
yeah,
right?
right.
So if I don't have students, sometimes I go down on a dive and I don't feel like I should be there. Like I don't have a, but you put a camera in my hands, I'm in my element.
Exactly. You're like whatever comes to me now is like not only to me, I can also share that with everybody else, but it almost feels like, yeah, you might discover something. That's kind of what I feel like when I go down with my camera. I'm like something crazy might happen and I might get it on video or I might get a picture of it. Like it's just all hypotheticals, but those hypotheticals excite me so much.
Okay, I want to
So,
use this to segue into something I saw on your Insta and I want to like
yeah,
learn more about is so you're saying like you're basically saying that when you go down there you can share the story with somebody afterwards. And like that's one of my favorite thing about media in general. The cameras in front of us right now, mics, like it's not about being on a camera, it's about telling a story, whether it's your own or someone else's. I fucking love storytelling. It's the best part of
so
all of this. So with yours, you got the underwater camera, and I see that while you were in Miami, you started Naked for Nature, and
yeah,
it seems like this artwork project, but conservation too, and storytelling at its finest, but with graphic design mixed in there as well. I want to know more about this. This seemed really cool, but also I learned about this like a half hour before we called. So I had zero time to dive into it. So I said, naked for you or naked for nature, dot, sign it off, put it to the side, let her tell me about it.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited to get to talk about this because I don't really like have a space to do that. So I'm super stoked that you asked me about this. So yes, Naked for Nature was like a little bit of a passion project that I started during COVID. It started on Earth Day, April 22nd. And I just was like, I had just downloaded Procreate on my iPad and I was like messing around with it. I had put a picture of myself into Procreate and then I was like, oh my gosh, I could put another picture on top of this. And so then I started like putting my underwater photography in the silhouette of my body. And then I was like, wait, this is sick. And I started asking my friends to send me pictures of them so that I could turn them into like little emblems of ocean conservation. And it kind of just caught on like wildfire at the very beginning. People were asking me if they could pay me to do them for them, and like random people I've never met before. They just DM me like, how much is this? Like, can I get one? And so it just really took off that way, and I kind of ran with it. So the idea behind it is that, well, like if you think about ocean conservation, especially on social media, there's so many amazing posts and such, like a lot of good information on there, but it's just being circulated around the same people who already know that same information. Like it is such an echo chamber in there, and it's really hard to invite new audiences to care about ocean conservation when you don't cater to them, when it's just like, environmentalists talking to other environmentalists. That's easy, but you need people who don't care in order to actually make change. And so that was like the loose basis of what Naked for Nature was based off of. I pretty much made ocean conservation more appealing by putting it into the silhouette of sexy female ladies. So I was trying to recruit, I don't know, like young frat boys that don't care about the ocean, but they're like, that's a nice silhouette.
Hey, yo,
To like,
girl, what you care about? Sharks? All right.
yo, what fish is that? You know what I mean? Like to get their, like maybe they just like the silhouette of the lady, and then they end up like sharing it on their social media, on like their story or something like that, without even realizing that, hey, you're actually spreading ocean conservation around through your network, because maybe somebody else that you follow will see that and be like, oh wow, I wonder what species of fish that actually is, and then they start looking into it or they start sharing. So the basis of the like kind of sexy women feminine nature of the art is kind of to make, like, paint conservation in a new light, make it exciting to a different audience, and not just like horny teenage boys. Like they're not that's not
I
the only
mean,
audience.
you're hitting more than just that. You're just the artistic community as a whole. Not everyone who's an
Yes,
artist gives a shit about our planet. You know what I mean?
it's
Like,
true.
so it's connecting multiple groups here. Everything from dumb teenagers and old men that honestly, yeah, you're going to win that argument a lot and get those people in
Yep,
there. Maybe not teach them much, but they're looking at least. But
exactly.
all the way down to people who legitimately are seeing the beauty in the art. Like when I pulled that up, I was like, what in the, and then I had to scroll for a minute to like figure out what was going on, and it's really,
Yeah,
it's just cool. It's different. It's something I've never seen before.
thank you. And it's also like super personal too, because once I kind of commercialized it a little bit, I was able to, you know, turn people into these emblems of ocean conservation. So like, for example, I had this girl reach out to me. Her boyfriend is a marine biologist, and so for his birthday, she commissioned a piece for me of like her in a cute bathing suit, like with like a school of yellow striped bass inside of her, to give to him as like a gift. It's like you can turn yourself into exactly that, like some type of symbol of ocean conservation. And like it's empowering, to be able to be like the face of something, even if it's not the face, it's a face of it. But I think that's also a big reason that it took off so much, and I kind of capitalized on that as well and went for this art show. So, like I said, I was like mentally prepared to move during those months. And I probably should have prefaced this at the beginning. I have raging ADHD and dyslexia. So my mind is on 24/7. On what? Never what matters, but it's definitely on and always moving. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I connected with you pretty quick on that one, especially seeing your. I mean, first of all, I'm like, she did a TED Talks. She did a TED Talk on dyslexia. This is my kind of
yeah,
person. I would not be surviving in the world as it is today without spell check at all. No ifs,
at
and
all.
or but. I would not have passed high school or
No
college.
way.
And
No
I'm
way.
pretty sure once I got about halfway through college, I was talking to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I think you're dyslexic. He goes, No, it's not genetic. Yeah, hell yeah, it's genetic. This stuff's been running rampant through our family, and I was just the first one to get some help.
Yeah, you need some CBT. That's so funny. Yeah, it's totally a huge part of me and how I communicate and just exist in this world. And it is chaotic to most, but to me, it makes sense, and to you, it also probably makes sense.
if things are still, it's almost an issue. Like
It
you
is.
got to keep going and trying new things. And I think very much kindred spirits here on the like. Again, this is about you. I'm not going to go on the tangent of what I've done, but if you looked at my resume over the past 10 years, you'd be like, the hell was he trying to do? He's got 15 different jobs, all different categories, and branching off from there and trying new things. But then you find themes that are running through it. And so, like, I feel like you
Exactly.
found those themes that are running that are hiding behind every single one that match up to what you
Exactly.
want. Yeah.
That's so true. That's
Um,
so true.
I mean, and then you go turn it into a TED Talk because you're bored on a Tuesday, I'm assuming. That probably wasn't planned.
Yeah,
You're just like, what if I wrote a speech? And somebody's like, do you want to do a TED Talk?
literally. Literally. I was just like, I'd love to have this on my bucket. Like, I'd love to check this off my bucket list. And just, I just send it. Like, that's really the bottom line here. Just if you just send it, someone will take you seriously eventually. And then you have like a crazy opportunity. So I don't know. I had nothing to lose there. So I don't know. I just applied and it worked out. I can talk about that now, or I forget what we were answering initially.
We were talking about the Naked for Nature art
Oh,
stuff, but
right.
I think we're kind of talking about conservation and ocean stuff. We can come back to dyslexia towards the end if you got
Okay.
more time. But I
Yeah.
want to hear more because the accolades, the reason we also saw you on that is people were talking about the Finstitute. I believe I saying that
True.
right. Finstitute?
Yeah, you totally
All right,
got it.
cool. Which I definitely said it wrong the first time and somebody made fun of me. So that's fine. Dyslexia at its
Dyslexia.
finest. Like
Exactly.
you're putting two words together that aren't real. I'm done here.
Yeah, it's not on you.
No, but so they again, congrats. That was an awesome like little piece in
Thanks.
Patty Scuba Diving Mag, whatever it was in that Patty owns Scuba Diving Mag. That's where my brain's going. My ADHD and dyslexia is at its finest right now too.
Oh, yeah.
10 young women making an impact in conservation. So you and Katie were both in there. I know probably the writer was here in the Keys, probably learned about you through that kind of group of people. But learned about you, and you're doing the Finstitute while you're still in school, still doing a master's program, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So, and it's a student led, but I don't know. Your turn. Tell me
Yep.
about this.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
because it's in the
You
same vein. It's still conservation. It's still pushing people towards learning about sharks and the ocean and all that stuff. So
Exactly. No, you hit the nail on the head. So pretty much, yeah. I guess again in true ADHD fashion, always moving, always hustling. I've been here for about a year now. In the program, it's 2 years, and so my first semester, I was getting my footing and just like bopping around and stuff. And this is kind of the story of how I started the Institute. So I'll tell you what it is first, and then I'll tell you how I started it. So what it is, the Institute, we are a student-led shark conservation consortium supporting shark conservation initiatives here in Australia and also in Indonesia. That is our slogan, our tagline, if you will.
you've memorized that well.
I have, and I've made everybody on my exec team memorize it too. So when somebody's like, "What's the Institute?" They're like, "A student-led shark conservation consortium that." Like,
The it's starting to rub off on the ink on the hand because you got sweaty and nervous.
they're like, and I'm just there. I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that's like what it is in a bubble, in a nutshell. So the reason that I started it is because back in that first semester of my program, I was taking my classes. I was feeling fulfilled a little bit, but I didn't have, like, there was a big part missing. Like, I need to be doing something, like self pushed, like doing something in order for me to like really feel fulfilled. And so I was like on Instagram one day and I swiped up and I saw like a repost of this fucking, sorry, I don't mean to curse, but fucking idiot, from Florida. I won't say his name out loud because he doesn't deserve the recognition, but shark fishing boat. And he was like parked right outside of the jetty on South Beach, which is where I literally grew up diving, snorkeling. That's where I was practicing my photography for the past 2 years before this post. And I had always heard rumors of this like hammerhead that would go from the jetty and then just like trace the shoreline back and forth because that was just kind of like its resident spot. And so many of my like scuba friends from the Water Women Collective in Miami, which is just a group of like water inclined women, we would all go snorkeling together. I've heard so many of them have seen this hammerhead shark, and I was so excited about one day being able to photograph it. And then I see this post on Instagram from this dude, and he's literally parked directly next to this jetty and holding up a dead hammerhead in his hands. And of course there's no way for me to know if it was the exact shark swimming in that like little path, but just the symbolism of like me knowing that there was one there and seeing him literally in that same spot holding that same exact, not the same exact shark, but a shark, was like absolutely heart-wrenching to me. Like that threw me into a new one. I was like, oh, like I'm still gonna cry now. It was just so upsetting to see that like so close. And so yeah, that really got me thinking, and I was like, Florida shark fishermen are the issue. You know, I was like so upset, and I'm like, they're the reason that they're going extinct. And I called my mom and my stepdad, and I was talking to them about how I felt pretty helpless and just like upset about this whole situation. And Paul, my stepdad, actually reminded me, like, he's a very level-headed guy, and at that moment he was like, okay, Aliah, like, I hear everything that you're saying, but you got to think about this on the bigger picture, and you can't let these like Instagram posts that are so enraging take you away from like the bigger problem, because the reality is that Florida shark fishermen, they're incredibly loud and vocal, but they're about 1% of the issue. When you look at it, if you really want to save sharks, like you need to go from the root of it and like attack the demand and help countries that rely on shark fishing to turn their focus and like kind of find a more beneficial or more stable income than that. Like there, because Indonesia, of course, is like one of the largest shark fishing like places in the markets in the entire world. And so he's like, you should really be directing your attention, if you want to make the biggest impact, on helping those people and fix, like, you know, trying to fix that problem. Because although the shark fishermen in Florida are incredibly vocal and incredibly obnoxious, you don't have to like pay attention to them, and don't let them like get that reaction out of you. And that was like exactly what I needed to hear. It was so eye-opening. Also just such a relief, because I was like, okay, great, I'm not gonna have to spend the rest of my career working to like convert them, you know, because I know it's gonna be like a lot of work. And so I took that anger and that rage and the sadness, the deep sadness that I felt from that post, and funneled it into this club. So initially I really wanted this to be a club to support this amazing shark fishing conservation initiative out in Indonesia called Project Hue, which was started by this girl Madison Stewart, who is an Australian native. And so I initially wanted to make this club a Project Hue club, because I believed so much in what her mission was. Are you actually familiar with Project Hue at
I
all?
am not, actually.
Okay, so pretty much, like in a nutshell, what she does is, I should probably preface it with, yes, Indonesia is one of the largest shark fishing markets in the world, but the Indonesian fishermen are not the issue. The people who are fishing the sharks are not the issue. They are not bad people. They are simply people trying to support their family through the only means that they have ever been taught how to, and that is reliable. So the issue is not them. They are not the villains. The villains, if you want to use that word, are the people who are demanding these products and forcing them to like continue fishing them, pretty much. And so she's recognized this very nuanced situation, because people do want to point fingers at the people like killing the sharks, them and themselves. But it does take time to be a bit more critical about it and think about, okay, well, this is like, you know, for the most part, a low income area, and like these people just don't have other options, so we cannot criminalize them for wanting to support their families. And she's taken that and ran with it. And so pretty much what she does is she has gone into this classic shark fishing village in Indonesia, in Lombok, and she is step by step raising money to convert these shark fishing vessels into ecotourism vessels, and then re-employing the shark fishermen as eco tour guides and paying them more. So
Finding a
while
different way to stimulate the economy, because they don't
exactly
really care about what they're doing, do they?
they they don't, a lot of them don't even like fishing sharks. Like they recognize the importance that they have in the ecosystem, and like it probably pains a lot of them to have to fish them out, but like at the end of the day, it's, you know, an ethical stance over like feeding your family, which
Exactly.
feeding your family is always going to come first. But it's an amazing opportunity and like business model, if you will, because she is directly giving like a handful of these fishermen the opportunity to explore another area of life and to, you know, be taken out of a really dangerous line of work just for once a month. So like right now, they, at least a bit ago, they were doing like once a month. She had converted 3 different vessels into ecotourism vessels, and we're running like trips once a month that took those boats off of the ocean. And by doing that, removing 3 boats out of the water that would be fishing sharks, you're saving like 100 sharks a day just by doing that. And so I am such a believer in what she's doing. It's such a community based approach. She's not going in there and like, you know, imposing all these regulations that are just like going to be passed up. She knows that they have to do this. She's just trying to make it a better future for them and their families. And I support her and I support her work so much. And so I initially wanted to make this club a club to support
Mm-hmm.
Project Hugh. And I reached out to a few professors at my school who are working with sharks. Ultimately, one of them responded. His name's Dr. Andrew Chin. He's the head of the Fish and Fisheries Lab here at JCU, and he's an incredible scientist. And he works with like sharks and fisheries and community-based approaches. Like I respect him a lot. And I met with him. I was like, look, this is what I want to do. I want to make a Project Hugh club. Like, what do you say? And he was very supportive of that. He also agrees that he loves what Shark Girl, her name's Shark Girl Madison on Instagram. I keep calling her that. Madison.
Actually, I do follow her.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
that's everybody knows her by Shark Girl Madison.
Handles are
But yeah,
the new everything for people.
that's what I'm saying. And he was saying that like she already has a really solid like global audience, but there's a lot of like Indonesian run local shark conservation organizations that don't really have that kind of publicity or those resources, and they could also benefit from the resources that a student led like research club pretty much could give them. And so I was like, wow, I didn't even think about that. And so yeah, since that conversation, we've kind of like shifted the goal of the club to not just being like solely focused on just Project Hugh. They are still like one of the people that we do support, one of the organizations we support, but also branch out to other like local Indonesian organizations that could benefit from having more publicity or a base here at JCU, and like letting us potentially in the future like help them with their research so that they can do more good and have bigger amplification of their science and what they're doing. So yeah, ultimately that brought us to explaining what that little tagline means, which is we are student led. So I'm the co-founder and president alongside my colleague friend, Luca Hoffaker, who is our VP, and we have a great exec team of Reed Basongan, who's my partner. He's a treasurer. We've got Eve, who is our secretary, and like we've got some social event coordinators. Like it's just like a really great team. And since we were kind of like getting things up and running last semester, we just had a pretty much a semester full of like master classes, which is how we kind of frame it. So ultimately the goal of our club, like the structure that we're aiming towards, is to have like 2 research teams of about 8 people in our club. So those are like members who are like willing to put in X amount of hours per week to actually contribute to ongoing science for these like Australian or Indonesian shark conservation organizations. So like ideally, you know, maybe one of these organizations is like, look, we need a literature review done about this area because we don't have any resources that are telling us much about this area, but maybe like you guys can put something together and like tell us about it. And if that's the case, then we are able to, you know, put together something as a student group. And in return, we as students get hands-on experience conducting primary and secondary literature reviews and research, which looks great for us because we get experience doing those kind of things. And then in return, it really helps out an organization that might need to be putting their time elsewhere to have the biggest impact. You know what I mean? So it's like a win-win. It's like students helping students on both sides of the spectrum. So that's kind of the ultimate goal of our club, is to have two kind of research teams of about 8 people that are there and willing to put the work in for these organizations throughout the course of the semester. And then at the end of the semester, we'll have finished products to send over to them. And then the rest of the group, which is a big group, we had 206 members last semester, which I was
Wow.
not. But I mean, what was I thinking? I put up like a giant shark banner, and I'm like, Shark Club, and then every marine biologist was like, yes, yes. Like, it's amazing. People love sharks. But yeah, so for the other 200 plus members of the group, we have like, we're gonna turn it into like monthly master classes, but at the last semester we had them every other week. So we hold bi-weekly meetings, and the structure we have going is that we'll have 2 speakers that will give kind of like a 15-minute TED talk kind of pitch about their work that is somehow connected to sharks or rays or something like that. And then they'll be followed by a 20 to 25-minute workshop, which will give us as students like hands-on employable skills that we're not getting in our classes per se. So for example, we had Dr. Mickey McComb Kobza from the Ocean First Institute, and she's also the current president of the American Elasmobranch Society. She zoomed in and gave us an amazing 15-minute talk about the evolution of hammerheads and her work with hammerheads. And then after that, we had a PhD student at JCU, a PhD candidate. His name's Nico Lubitz. He gave a really awesome 15-minute presentation on his work, like using acoustic telemetry to track large fish and sharks. And then following that, we had him teach us a little, 15-20-minute workshop on acoustic telemetry. And he actually brought in acoustic telemetry tags for us to hold and see
That's
in
so
real life.
cool.
And so it's like these kind of things where we as students get to have the opportunity to, learn about things that are outside of the scope of the classes that we're in, just expand our understanding of like what it means to be a shark scientist and what there even is out there to explore is really cool. Like, one more, I guess, for me, I taught a workshop in underwater photography. Like, you're not going to learn that in your classes, but like, that's a skill that I have that I feel that I can share with people. And everybody at James Cook University, for the most part, is a diver. And they all have like all these amazing GoPro footage and like cool pictures and stuff, and they're all green. And I'm like, well, I bet people could benefit from learning how to color grade. So I taught a workshop on that, and people seem to love it. So yeah, it's been a really awesome experience getting to connect with all these amazing researchers, and bring them into the sphere of like this James Cook University pool. Another big part of the club is that, like, I love my lecturers, of course. Like, the professors that we have are like amazing, but I want to hear from the students. Like, that's another aspect of it. It's like students helping students. And so we do have we sprinkle in a little bit of like lecturers here and there, but for the most part, we really want to hear from like the student researchers who are at a level close enough to us as master students or as undergrad students, because it's a mix of all of it, where we can ask questions like, well, how did you get here? How did you know that you want to do that, without them being so far in their academic career where they like can't even really relate to those things. So for me, that student to student mentorship that we get from students being able to lecture us about what they're doing, giving them public speaking experience, and then in return us being able to ask them these very real questions, that's really a huge part of the club as well.
That's phenomenal. I mean, to have that student level where you can actually have the conversation, you learn something, but where it's not like, okay, you've been doing this for 40 years, I'm not allowed to question your
Right.
premise at all, because me questioning your premise isn't disrespect, even though you'll see it that
Right.
way. It's me learning. It's me
Exactly.
digesting, and maybe you are wrong, but there's a good chance I'm wrong, and I'm learning by asking questions.
100%.
You can do
Like,
that with
that's,
peers. You can't do that with, you know, the old tenured professor.
I mean,
Well,
yes.
some of them you can.
Yeah, like most of the professors that I've had at James Cook have been like incredibly amazing and, just awesome people. But at the end of the day, like, they're very important professors, and like even that is just like sometimes they're just like intimidating to talk to, because like you don't want to ask the
Yeah.
question that might make you seem like you're not informed. It's like not even a them problem sometimes. It's just like students are shy, like especially me. Like I don't love putting myself out there if I don't know like how it's going to be received. So even just from that perspective, it's cool to have a student where it's like, okay, I just feel like we're we're closer to the same level. You know what I mean?
It removes barriers.
Yeah,
No matter
exactly.
what they are, it just
Exactly.
removes barriers. Yeah, no,
And like
that's
they're super impressive. Like the research that's going on by students here is like seriously so impressive. So
that's so cool.
it's so
I mean,
cool.
you
I
took an
love it so
idea
much.
and now you got 200 kids. Kids.
I
Let's be real. We all
know.
feel like children until the day we die. 200
Absolutely.
kids helping out, doing some crazy cool stuff. And the fact that y'all are able to connect not just with big organizations but all these small organizations, it's a testament for what you're trying to do out there, and people are wanting to get involved. So I
Totally.
I hope it keeps going.
Hell yeah, it will.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay, photography.
Photography.
I love it. Above water, below
Love
water, but especially
you
below
say it.
water. All right, so you got that
100%.
that first camera as a gift.
Yeah.
Okay, can I
Yeah.
get can I get techie nerdy with it?
Yeah.
What'd they get
Absolutely.
you?
It's a Canon M6 Mark II. It's discontinued, but not because it's a bad camera. It's just because during COVID they had a shortage of parts, and Canon pushed all of their parts that they did have towards their new like R models. So they had to discontinue some of the crop sensor ones, which sad, but also now I have like an antique and it's great. So
And it's still kicking.
it's still kicking.
Heck
And then I
yeah.
have iFlight housing, which has been great.
iGlag's a great brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So,
do you use?
oh, I got a Canon 5D Mark IV with a
Oh,
18 by 35, I think, fisheye, and a
beautiful.
and a domed port on a CNC housing.
Wow, fancy. Look at you. How's traveling with that?
Oh, it sucks. So I have one of my
Imagine.
carry-ons is a bag with every
Yep.
piece of the housing broken down into its
Yep.
individual parts with my
Oh,
reg set on top and my dive computers. Then
oh my.
my other carry-on is a backpack with all of my camera equipment because I cannot travel with it all together.
No, that sounds about right. Like I usually have like this massive carry-on backpack where I put my camera, my housing, my drone batteries, my second camera, my GoPro. Like I put all of the things in there, and then I'll like walk onto an American flight and they're like, that needs to fit in the thing. Like you need to check that. I'm like, it's all batteries. So unless you want this plane to blow up, I'm not checking
Well,
this.
maybe don't say that to the TSA agent.
I'm like, all of these are lithium batteries. Like, I literally cannot check it for the safety of this plane. And they're like, okay, very well. It'll probably fit. I'm like, I know it fits. Don't get me started on American flights.
Yeah. Well, the last time I went through TSA, the dude unzipped that bag as I'm going through, goes through the thing, and he goes, I was like, go for it, man. And he opens it up and he looks at it and he just stares for a minute, and then he turns his head to the other side, and then he grabs that little stick and and he goes, can I? And I go, sure. And he grabs the regulator by the first stage and lifts it up, and he goes, the hell you building, son? It's like, I'm a scuba diver. And he goes, is that what this stuff looks like? He had
Get out of
never
here.
seen a regulator in his life, and it's buried around strobes and batteries and camera equipment. So
Oh
he's
my
like,
God.
dude, what are you building? I was like,
I know. The amount of looks that I get when it goes through the x-ray machine, like I have to just look as least sketchy as possible. Like no hoodies. I cannot wear any hoodies going through TSA with the bags that I put through there, because like it just, you got to go through looking like I promise I'm a photographer. Like this is just, I know this looks bad, but it's all very important to me. Please don't touch it.
I take it further. And honestly, the last 5 or 6 times I've traveled, I've done this. If you want to be like nobody thinks you're an issue, wear a cowboy hat. Boots and jeans and a cowboy hat. I do it every time.
Kidding?
And two things happen. Somebody at TSA says, "Damn, man, like your hat," and they do not look at my bags. The second thing that happens is some small child under the age of 10 will pull on their parent's sleeve and say, "Mommy, that's a cowboy." And you wink and walk away, and it makes their day. I grew up in Texas. This isn't super out of left field for me. I spent years in Nashville. I love two-stepping and country dancing. Cowboy hats is the culture. You just can't wear them on boats very well, so it's been a little less lately. But when I travel, it's like I got to wear my good hat in case we go to dinner. And then, you wear it on the plane because you can't check that.
That's great advice. I think I will suddenly invest in a cowboy hat.
I just think your life is full send. Give it a shot.
Honestly, I'm going right after this interview.
All right, get that Lainey Wilson vibe and see how it rolls.
Yes.
No, that's awesome. But okay, what is your favorite thing to photograph?
Ooh,
Like for
favorite
me,
thing
for me, it's big stuff and people. Like I'm not into like finding the little things and getting the perfect shot of the nudibranch down there. I love nudibranchs. If I see one, I'm going to try to take a photo. My camera's not set up for that. I love capturing people, especially their first, second, third dive, figuring it out. I love that. Like I'm kind of over teaching open water. I got honest. Kind of burnt out on it. I'll still do it. I still like it from time to time, but I can't do that day in, day out. But I love taking photo of somebody splashing for the first time.
Oh,
so cool.
That's
I love turtles. Turtles and sharks, you get those photos all day.
Yeah.
Chef's
I
kiss.
swear, turtles are like the most photogenic creature. Like I've never taken a bad picture of a turtle.
No.
I aim to be like that one day. Just give me the photogenic like nature turtle. I'll be happy.
Just every time it turns, you just have the pose.
Yeah, I'm like, why are your eyes so cute in every direction? Like, they're so cute. But yeah, I would have to agree with you. I don't think I've ever even attempted macro because I'm not that interested in it. So I would say, yeah, megafauna and then people. I really do love shooting like creative free diving pictures. So like when I was living in Hawaii, I made a really awesome group of girlfriends out there. One of which, her name's Alexia, absolute queen, because the things that I made her do as my free diving model, I don't think I could get a paid free diving model to do. I took her out, like we were super hungover one day, and I was like,
Every
we need to get out.
Story starts that way.
Like we need to get out by this time. Like the lighting is great. Like come on, let's go. And so we get out there, and I'm obsessed with Halloween. I should probably preface it with that. I wanted to do like this pre-Halloween photo shoot, and I had her bring this like red cape, and no fins. So we like swim all the way out here. She has no fins. She still has a weight belt because she needs to get to 20 feet. And like we go down, we take a few pictures. She's like, being such a trooper, getting back up. And then I'm like at the surface, and I was like, I need you to take your mask off. So now she's like, no fins, no mask, fully weighted. And she's like, you're freaking kidding me. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, but like, it's ruining the picture. She's like, oh my God, okay. So yeah, we were out there until one of us got super nauseous. I won't say who. And but yeah, like I love doing creative photo shoots like that, where you get like dressed up in like thrift store dresses, and then like there's crazy sunbeams coming through from like sunset or sunrise, and like it just looks like you're falling through the looking glass, which is another thing about me. That is my Alice in Wonderland, the 1951 cartoon, is like the Bible that I live by, which clearly shows because it makes no sense, and that's what my life is, and just collection of crazy fantastical magical things. That's what I see it as. But yeah, those are like probably my favorite shots, like crazy creative underwater humans, or beautiful sunlit sharks and manta rays and such. I love that stuff.
I haven't got a chance to work with a lot of free divers, but the few times I have has been some of the most, if not best photos, the funnest photo shoots.
So
I am not a free diver. I am planning on taking that course soon and getting my breath up.
Yeah.
My static's okay. When I'm moving, it sucks. But
I'm still close to that too.
Yeah. But when you're taking those photos with them, were you free diving with them, or were you on scuba?
Yeah, I was freediving with them. I didn't even consider going on scuba until recently. Like there's some cool things that I've seen like Andy Musgrave do, which I'm sure I need to practice before I do them, but I'd love to do that eventually. He's a really awesome Bohemian photographer. If you haven't heard of
We'll
him,
look him up.
such a king. Um, but yeah, I freedive, so I'm not like a crazy freediver either, but for the most part, like as long as it's like 30 or shallower, 30 feet or shallower, I can definitely get the shots that I need on one breath. It's quick, you know. It's like you send them down, and then as soon as they're down, then you start swimming down, and then you get like all the shots from like their level, then they start going up, and then you start following them up, so you can get like those kind of like ascension shots, which are really cool. It's just so dynamic. Like there's so much movement going on with the freediving shots when you both are like on one breath. So I kind of like that.
Well, and that's why I want to start being able to do some more of that, because the biggest issue I had was not being able to communicate between a shot. So we
Oh
literally
yeah,
had to have everything planned out, and then I'm down for 30, 40 minutes while they're doing
that's
breathe ups, coming up and
that's
down.
so hard.
It's very difficult.
That is
And
hard.
I mean, you know the Keys area, so I'll just give you the scenario. I think you might know of her, Maddie. Uh, Maddie C.
Yeah.
Fox on
Yes,
Instagram.
of course.
I did a photo shoot with her, and she free dove. This was her idea, so I went on scuba because I'm not prepared for this. We went to the Spiegel and the Benwood. We got her, and it's not the best shot. That one got a little bad, but we got her on the top deck of the Spiegel. Okay, yeah. I wanted her in the
Girl.
doorways, but we couldn't get that shot to come out. I was still learning. I was borrowing a camera. I didn't even have my own yet. I borrowed a buddy's camera. We are learning together. Both me and Maddie this day. And then after that, we got the coolest photo I've taken, probably one of the top photos I've ever taken. And it was on the anchor off the bow of the Benwood.
Is it possible that I've seen this? Did she post it?
Yep. It was like 3 years ago.
Oh, snap. I've definitely seen this picture.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was so cool because she's like, no one's ever done this. I haven't seen it anywhere. I've looked. Will you go with me? And I was like, you know, I'm not good at this. Like, I'm new. I'm learning. And she goes, no, this is an opportunity for you to learn. It's an opportunity for me to push myself. And since neither of us are paying each other for this, like, it's just good. I was like, let's go. It was so much fun.
Oh my gosh. That is such a cool picture. I can't believe you were learning during that. Like that came out really, really good.
I just got lucky I didn't screw up the ISO. Like, that's the only way I pulled that one off.
The amount of times that I've like come back, I'm like, oh, that was amazing. And then like I fricked up the ISO and it's like, oh, it's all
so grainy.
So grainy. Or like when I first moved to Hawaii, I had this great I moved to Hawaii in part to get better at underwater photography, and it was literally like my first week there. I went out with my really good friend Caitlin McQueenie, who is a shark handler from Florida, who I met there, and we both happened to be moving to Kona at the same time. But she and I went out and like ended up encountering this like pod of spinner dolphins. Mm-hmm. And I thought I was taking like the best pictures I've ever taken in my life. I'm like, I'm going straight to Nat Geo. And then I get home and I'm like, why are they so shitty? Like I'm trying to edit them. They're just like garbage. I was shooting in JPEG the entire time, which was like so heartbreaking.
Can't tell you how long it took me to buy a CF card. Like it really shames me how long it took me to finally invest into a CF card and like shoot JPEG and RAW at the same time. Now I don't even shoot JPEG; it's just RAW.
It's exactly. I don't even bother with JPEG because when you edit it, it just takes away half of the information, and then you've like, I don't know. It's just so much nicer in RAW, and yeah, I did like that once in a lifetime shoot in freaking JPEG, but. Okay, I'm past it.
Hey. Yeah.
The quality underwater photographer.
I mean, you know the trick to underwater photography, right? It's all in the post. If you fuck something up, what do you do?
Yeah, just edit the crap out of it.
Black and white. If you fuck it up, everything looks good in black and white underwater.
That's true.
You say it's an artistic decision. It's not. I fucked it up. I'm putting it in black and white. That is the #1 underwater photography post-production rule. It is equivalent with a diver never holds their breath. It is.
It's so good.
I've salvaged a lot of bad photos by putting it in black and white.
100%. Literally, you're like, ooh, I messed that up. Take the color out. There we go. Perfect.
Oh yeah.
So good.
Well, this has been phenomenal. I'm still well over an hour of your time. Thank you for sitting on the side of the road. Yeah, I think we're approaching like 1:15, 1:10, something like that.
You're kidding.
No. This has been amazing.
Wow. Damn, yeah. I'm not even like I still have battery left. I thought my phone would die before. But...
Well, I mean, we can keep going if you've got anything that you really want to dive into, passion project that you haven't talked about or anything like that.
I mean, I guess like I have. So like I'm about to start a full year of research. I can talk about that like briefly because I haven't done it yet, but it's gonna be cool. But yeah, I'm about to start a full year of independent research, like my first independent project really ever. And I'm going to be looking at shovel-nosed rays. They're critically endangered globally, but here in Australia, they're really plentiful, which is awesome, like a really great opportunity to study them. And there's like literally zero information out there on shovel-nosed rays and guitarfish and wedgefish in general. So I'm really excited. I'm pretty much going to be looking at nearshore environments on the Great Barrier Reef, and monitoring, kind of just like using drones to do 3 things. So I'm going to be creating orthomosaic maps of a few different nearshore environments where shovel-nosed rays are plentiful.
What is an orthomosaic?
Orthomosaic map. So like think about when you look at Google Maps and then you go on to like satellite mode.
Overlaying information onto a actual map.
Yeah, so it's like the 3D kind of image of the map where you can zoom in and like you're like, oh, there's my house, like that kind of stuff.
Got it.
I'm gonna do that with drones of like these like very clear watered areas that are pretty close to shore that have like a lot of shovel-nosed rays. And when I say a lot, I mean like so many. There's like 30 to 40 of them in like an area at a given time. They're everywhere here. And so I'm going to be making orthomosaic maps of those areas and then understanding the distribution of the shovel-nosed rays and the density spots among those areas on those flats, and kind of overlaying that onto this orthomosaic map that I've made from each place. And then finally, I'm going to also use the drones to do a few different like behavioral tracks to kind of see where the shovel-nosed rays are maybe stopping to feed, maybe where they're stopping to hide and rest, and kind of creating like density and movement hotspots on those orthomosaic maps, ideally. And then pairing all of that with some diet samples. So I'll actually be catching some specimens, which is cool. I've actually done it once before with one of my peer advisors for this project, Jalen Myers, who is just such a cool person. She's like the stingray scientist at JCU. And so I went out with her on one of her like stingray capture studies because she's looking at their diet and how it's distributed across the sand flats of Lucinda near our school. And yeah, when I went out with her, we actually caught a few shovel-nosed rays by accident, and she uses them for her study, so it worked out. But yeah, I'll be pretty much taking diet samples, just how she's doing it in her PhD research, which is through this thing called gastric lavage. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
Okay, well, gastric lavage is a non-lethal way of getting a stomach gut content sample from animals. So pretty much what you do is
pumping their stomach.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, you put a tube down their mouth, and it's attached to a bilge pump, and then you flush their stomach with water, and then they like vomit, and then you collect the sample. You say, "I'm so sorry," and then you let them go. It's pretty much how it goes.
So a little trauma, but who doesn't need a little?
Right?
Kidding.
I'm like, at least we're not eating you, and it's all like for science.
Yeah,
it's really it's hard for me from like the animal ethics perspective to like, you know, make any animal uncomfortable in any way, but the reality is that like it kind of needs to happen so that we can ensure their safe like propagation throughout the future. Like I'm not just doing this for fun.
Making one uncomfortable for hundreds or thousands to be safe.
Like utilitarianism never fails. Well, there's some philosophical
Let's
situation
not
where,
get into the fall and rise of
yeah.
civilizations. I don't have a long time to talk about Rome and the Baltic states, and then we'll get over
I
and talk
know,
about
like,
Genghis Khan, but
it's true. But yeah, so that's pretty much the basis. I'll be like looking at what they're eating and
Mhm.
then pairing that with some sediment cores of the areas that I've been sampling from to see where, like, random sediment cores. So like where among the like nearshore environments, where even is the food, like, actually, and see if there's a difference between where the food is, what they're eating, and where they're eating it. So it's all going to be a study to ultimately help conserve these critically endangered shark rays. They're definitely rays, but they look like sharks. And yeah, just to get some literature out there because people really don't know much about them. So I'm just excited to kind of fill that gap a little bit and be able to study something that is already so connected to what I ultimately want to study with drones too. Like, that sounds,
That's so
I'm
cool.
very excited. Yeah, I'll keep you posted on that.
Please, yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
that's my project. So
I mean, you're just doing so much. It's phenomenal. It's all for a good cause. It's the epitome of what the stories I'm trying to look for and tell. This is the whole reason we're
hey,
doing this, and this is such cool. And I feel like there will be more opportunities to talk with you and hear more things and get really specific on projects and things like that. But thank you
absolutely.
so much for doing this on a whim. Somebody
Oh my god.
without a large following who's 15 hours away based off, the conversation with somebody who knows when's the last time you spoke to.
Well, no, thank you for reaching out, seriously, and for, staying up on a Friday night past 9 p.m. Like, thank you. Thank you for reaching out and just listening to my story. That was actually kind of fun to talk about that. It's
Oh,
usually hard to talk about myself, but that just poured out of me. Damn.
it was amazing. So thank you again. Do you want to plug if anybody wants to learn more about these projects or foundations? Where can people find you and maybe in links to all these sites and these things?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I can say them, and then do you want me to also text them to you?
Oh yeah, you can. I'll throw them in the description, but just go ahead and give everybody a shout out right now. Things that you care about.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, number one, we've got the Finstitute. You don't have to be at JCU to follow us along. You can find us on Instagram at the.finstitute. And then also thefinstitute.org for our website to learn a bit more. My personal website is for my, like, underwater photography, videography projects going on. If you want to check out a little bit more about me, that's aliahmelissaphoto.squarespace.com, I think. I did not pay for the full domain there, but we're working on it. And I'm trying to think. I think that's oh, and I guess my Instagram, if anybody wants to follow me, is at aliah.in.waterland. So it's my name in Waterland, Aliah in Waterland.
Check it out. I know you've got a link tree on there with a bunch of
I
different links to
do.
different stuff. So that's a good central
That's
hub. If you can find that, that will definitely be in the description. Give her a follow. She's fucking amazing. Super cool stuff. And if you never talked
Thanks,
to her, at
Tanner.
least follow that journey because there's some great things to see. If not, throw in your 2 cents, start a
Yeah,
conversation. You never know how you can change the world by talking to a stranger. So
true.
thank you
Yes,
so
to that
much.
time.
We're going to wrap this
Thank you
up
so
because
much.
we're at an hour 20 and I am going to go have some food, dinner, maybe a drink. So have a great rest of
Ooh.
your night and we'll
Yeah.
guys, this has been the Anchor Lines podcast. Thank you for tuning in and see you in the next one.